It's time for Respect the Process, a short chat about commercial filmmaking. Here's your host, Director Jordan Brady.
Oh, Helen, the way you tee up the show, the energy right out the gate, Helen, it sets the tone for a wonderful episode. It's September 15th. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon in Los Angeles, and my guest is Ilanna Barkusky. Ilanna is one of the top directors in Shots Magazine's New Directors of 2024. It's a great conversation about how she came from photography and unexpectedly became a commercial director. People asking her to do stuff. You'll hear the whole story. And we are quite aligned on many a thing about our careers. So you're going to get a lot of tips and tricks from Ilanna. Joshua Tree is right around the corner. I'm so excited. We were almost sold out. 2 filmmakers got gigs within 10 days. Called me up. I said, well, you got to take the gig, man. Don't worry. We'll work it out. I don't want anyone to not take a gig to come to the retreat. And that has happened now at least once for all 3 years of the retreat. Super excited about this one. The theme is define your voice, because I'm assuming if you're going to come to a filmmaker retreat, you kind of know your voice. You just want to hone in on it. And I was talking to one of the filmmakers today coming from Miami. We have actually 3 people coming from the Miami area, a filmmaker returning from the Portland area, New York, LA, of course, and some of the Midwestern states. So it is truly a sampling of the U.S. I was telling someone this morning on an onboarding call, get ready to learn, not just from yours truly, and I'm no lawyer, I'm no CPA, I'm no rabbi, but I have my opinions, but learn from the cohort of professionals, working filmmakers that have joined us for the retreat. And I'm really excited about sort of the new business model. I've been on rosters. I've had rosters. I have a roster of directors, and I have my own company. And I'm going to compare and contrast how you can take charge of your career and what's the best fit. For some of you, you should just join a roster, sit back, and let the boards flow in and pick and choose what jobs you want. And for some of us, we should forge our own path. And maybe there's a hybrid model. So I'm going to talk about all that. Yes, there will be Magic Mind at the retreat. Helen, that's right. I do sound a little nasally because I started sneezing yesterday with the allergies. And I don't think there's anything in Magic Mind that fights allergies per se. But I think my overall health after a year of doing these sort of wellness shots is helping me, because I'm full of pep and vinegar. That's not the expression. I'm just feeling good, but I'm a little clogged up. And the ashwagandha, the lion's mane, and all the vitamin Bs that are in there. I learn a lot watching the videos that Magic Mind puts on Instagram about the adaptogens and the nootropics, sort of balancing a steady, clear-headed focus and flow with a non-jittery upper that comes with the ceremonial grade matcha, which I thought was a marketing ploy, but it really is such a thing. Ceremonial grade matcha. Excited about the retreat, excited about an upcoming shoot. I'm leaving on a plane in about 90 minutes. I'm flying to Dallas in Texas, which is kind of its own state. Top secret commercial starring a professional athlete. I cannot say who, but his initials are CD. So I'm super excited about that. A really fun project. And what can I tell you? You're going to enjoy the conversation with Ilanna. And I want you to email me what you think, because we've been doing this a long time, and your feedback is much appreciated. I talk about the Magic Mind, I talk about the retreat and the online classes and such, and Jake Brady does it in the middle of the show, but you're always welcome to skip this part. You're not going to hurt my feelings. But I've turned down advertisers they've come and gone. I don't pursue that. This is a show for you. I mean, Lars 2-3 weeks ago, and Susan Monroe, oh my gosh, what knowledge nuggets they were dropping, and today is no exception. So enjoy my conversation with Ilanna. You sent me the 2 short films, and they're gorgeous.
Thank you.
And then I went and snooped around the website, obviously, and just one thing I love, there's nary a talking head interview in anything, and that's by choice.
There's a couple in the short films, but just trying to make them like as beautiful as possible and not contrived and formulaic. And also just like making the subjects comfortable in that moment, because both of the subjects for my films had not really been on camera before. So that was like a process of getting them comfortable to even like speak about these deeply personal experiences in such a beautiful way. So
you didn't even have the camera rolling, you just had sound gear.
It was about a mix of both, but yeah, like definitely at some of the Q&As of film festivals, people ask me like, how did you come up with the story? Is it written for the voiceover and everything? And it was just taken from these like beautiful moments that I had. They spoke so beautifully about these kind of difficult experiences. So,
and what made you decide to do? Let's start with what's Under the Surface.
Okay, that's an older one. Okay, yeah, happy to talk about that one.
What makes you decide to do that?
Yeah, I guess that one actually is a while ago. It's in 2022, I want to say, or beginning of 2023. It was just early in the year, and things are always like slow in January. So the underwater cinematographer and me just like put our heads together. We just wanted to do a fun project. And we got connected with Anita, who is a artistic swimmer with the US team. And we just went out and like had a nice day. Like I had this kind of concept for emotions portrayed through artistic swimming and performance in the pool. So yeah, that was more like an experimental collaboration between all of us.
It's so beautiful. And what had you shot underwater before that?
Yeah, so we've shot a couple times, me and the underwater cinematographer on that project. So we kind of had like a good way of working. We were like joking around, that's like the smoothest shoot that either of us had ever done. It was just like 5 hours, everything went well.
Are you underwater as well?
No, so I am above water, but there's underwater speakers. So I can actually communicate with the cinematographer and give direction.
Through English or a series of clicks, like dolphin-like?
Like Morse code. No, yeah, you can actually communicate with them. I don't know how it works. Like I've never actually been down there and hearing someone else's voice or whatever else, but no, you can fully communicate with them from above the surface. They can like hear me say like move a little to the left or whatever, and they can make that adjustment.
Are you afraid of the water? Do you swim?
No, I'm not. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I can get in there. I'd love to get in there and actually, like experience the weird, I assume, situation of having noise. Like we can also play music, so can be a cool thing. If it's something more like expressive, you can just set the vibe down there, which is what we also were doing. Yeah, that shoot for sure. We were playing music down there so that she could get in the mood for things. So,
how did you know about artistic swimming?
It's
like I didn't even know that was a thing until now. That's what it's called.
Yeah, I think it changed from synchronized swimming, and the Olympics are coming up, so I don't know if you can get into that sport and watch some things with it. There's this company called Brady. They helped me a lot when I first moved to LA. They were like setting me up to work with different athletes, and by that time, Anita and I had a lot of mutual friends. I'd worked with like some divers and swimmers, so it made sense for us to collaborate. And we kind of got linked up through Parity again. It's a company that supports like equal opportunity for women's sports through like various partnerships. Yeah.
Now I want to give listeners a little bit of your past. I know you're from Vancouver, one of my favorite cities on the planet, actually, not just in North America. What's it like growing up in Vancouver and there's a film community there? And did you always know you wanted to be a director?
Yeah, I actually didn't know I wanted to be a director until I moved to LA, although there were kind of parts, but there were things happening in my childhood. I wanted to be in front of the camera, essentially. I was also doing theater. My parents were putting me a lot into theater, which I didn't love. I really wanted to do film and TV. So I
As
had a
an
major.
actor?
Yes, yeah, yeah. It was short-lived. It's kind of funny to think about it because I was pretty young. So I've come a long way since that point in my life. But yeah, I was doing the audition hustle, had an agent, had
In
an acting
Vancouver,
coach.
or that's why you moved here?
No, so that was all in Vancouver.
Gotcha.
I eventually moved to LA at 26 to pursue photography even further from where I was going with it in Vancouver. So I had like a long way to come all the way back around to film and to directing, which yeah, feels like my calling, above all else, acting, photography. So
That's interesting. I don't think of Los Angeles. I think of, and I'm ignorant. So just because I say I think this doesn't mean I have any basis in reality. Uh, I don't think of LA as, oh, I got to go to LA, baby, to be a photographer. I think of photography, you could live anywhere. In fact, Vancouver has a romance to it when I think of, photography, because there's the city, there's the mountains, there's, such greenery, those islands out there.
yeah, it's a beautiful place to grow up. And I miss it all the time. But yeah, it's a good kind of segue into the photography side of things. I was in action sports, so I was a ski
Uh-huh.
photographer. I was like traveling the world, spending time in the mountains and everything else. Once I kind of felt like I had reached the culmination of that, I decided to move to LA, to somewhere that didn't have mountains, that I could kind of put myself out of my comfort zone, shoot other types of things. There's a, decent commercial community for commercial photography and editorial photography in LA. So yeah, that was the goal. And then I kind of got sucked up into the directing world like immediately, which is pretty predictable, I guess, in hindsight. And I'm really happy I did. It was the place to go for that. But yeah, it was not the intention in the beginning.
When you say there's a community for photography, like there's a bowling league or there's coffee meetups, what is that community like? Because really, there's not much of a, people will hate me for saying this, but there's not much of a filmmaking community. Like there's no commercial directors bingo night. So
Should we
what
start
kind of,
one?
we should done.
Yeah, no, I love trying to find these little communities and using them as a way to meet people. There was this it's I guess a creative accelerator. I think it doesn't exist anymore, but it was called Art of Freelance. And it was one run by this wonderful photographer, Matthew Young. And I joined it before I was going to move to LA. So we would meet every week and we had this like big personal project that we were working towards. Um,
Individually.
we would meet as a group
Oh, wow.
every week. Yeah, and we would check in with each other, and just like hold each other accountable to finish this big personal project that we had all done these questionnaires and stuff like that to decide what's our big personal project that can get us to where we want our careers to go. And then it was like accountability sessions essentially.
I
So
love that.
yeah, it's wonderful.
That's part of the Filmmaker Retreat, which is probably sold out by the time this airs. But I don't want to go into a pitch for it. But the biggest thing is creating a community and hanging out with other people that do a similar thing, because everybody's different, has different goals and dreams, and then the hardest part is following up and keeping each other accountable for the promises we made to ourselves during the session. So it sounds like this photography group was specifically made to do that.
Yeah, and it was really wonderful moving to LA and having that resource, because mine actually was to direct my first like project. So Matthew introduced me to his DP that he loved working with. And that was like a huge, moment for me, because when you decide you're going to direct your first project, you're kind of figuring out, okay, how do I meet those people in my crew? How do I
Right.
not get scared and back off and be like, never mind, I'll just stick to what I know. So yeah, I really credit that with like getting me to get that first project done. And then once I did that, I was like, okay, I really like this. I want to do more stuff and
So
figure out how to make this work.
you hijacked the photography group to do a film. Hi,
Yeah.
this is Ilanna. She doesn't want to do stills anymore. And everybody's like, "What?"
No, so at that time too, it was there's a lot of like photography, directing. It was kind of in one, these shoots that were in one. So I was realizing that I needed to do that for my photography to, be competitive in the marketplace and make sure I knew how to direct. And then
Yeah.
directing kind of took over. I was like, oh, there's all these creative things that I can do with sound and storytelling, and I get to with all these people, and maybe this is what I need to be pursuing instead. So it was a kind of like slow moving over, but it definitely happened. So.
Well, I think when we chatted, and it's been over a year, we talked about how a lot of photographers are then asked by a client, "Oh, could you roll some motion?" And what I see happen, I see a lot of great photographers turning into great video, commercial directors. And then I see a fair amount where it's just rolling image, it's rolling video on what should have been a bunch of stills, and maybe there's a voiceover. So that what I love about the two short films and your work overall is there is a decided take on sound design, that the cutaways to the ocean or the waves or just someone staring out into space, there's a point to it. Like it's not just a collage.
Yeah, I think.
Bravo.
Thank you. Yeah, as I'm kind of going forward, I'm getting way more interested in trying to meld the storytelling and visuals together. I think when you come from photography, you are very concerned with the frame, and then your end product maybe you're focusing more on the camera moves and
Mhm.
making it look beautiful, and then you're missing the key component of what will actually have people experience it and have that like emotional tie that will make them remember your work, I think, as well. I'm always thinking about that. I don't really remember some projects that maybe are shot really beautifully but don't have like a message. So I'm
Of your
trying
own
to
or
kind
just
of
in general?
just in general.
Yeah, okay. Phew.
Yeah.
You said you didn't remember your own projects. I'm like, wow, we got to talk again.
No, I'm like, I remember them too well because I think so much goes into every single one. I could memorize it.
What was the first two-part question? First stills campaign you got hired to do professionally, and follow up with the first commercial paid video project.
Yeah, I mean, photography is kind of hard to pinpoint because I started so young and there was all these like little jobs. I think little jobs that I actually would stack together throughout the year and be able to make things work. But the biggest, like more commercially oriented campaign, I think, would be one for Roxy back in
Hmm.
Whistler, where I was living. So I was shooting all of the imagery for Dick's Sporting Goods, Dunham's, which is another like department store in the US, and then Sport Check, which is like our Dick's Sporting Goods in Canada. So I got to work with one of my friends actually, and we kind of produced the shoot on our own up in Whistler. And I had my friends styling, and we were just kind of trying to figure it all out. When you're like shooting in the mountains, it's such a beautiful location to begin with. So it didn't really feel like work, but yeah, the photos went all around department stores. It was fun to like walk in and be like, hey, that's my photo beside the shoe wall.
Like blown up 10 feet tall.
Yeah. No, it was a big project, and it was exciting. It felt really fun, and like especially stepping into, in photography jobs like that. I am directing, making sure everything is all to my liking, and it all just felt very natural. And then on commercial directing side, it was Red Bull. It was a long-winded story to get there, but I was working on some certain projects when I first moved to LA, and then personal stuff, and then sending them to Red Bull. And then there was one project that I won the job, but it didn't end up getting made. It was a athlete webisode series with athletes working with various causes and issues that were important to them. And then that ended up falling through. We did a lot of prep on the first episode. But then later on, about a month later, I ended up shooting a little like Wings commercial to recruit students and people at universities to join the Wings people that give out free Red Bull at events and stuff like that.
Oh, wings, like
So,
Red Bull gives you wings.
yeah, I don't know.
Is
Like
that
they're
like a
called,
sub brand or not a brand sub brand, but that's like a division of Red Bull,
yeah,
the wings
they're called
program?
student marketeers, I think, at the time, at least when I was working on the project. But yeah, they're the people that I don't know if various events they'll have their little backpack. They also have the minis and they like just
Oh,
give
I've
free
seen the
Red Bull to
backpacks.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like a way to recruit people to join, which sounds like a great job. You just get to go to events and give out free Red Bull to people.
Did
But
you
yeah, it was
ever
a
do you ever just drive the little car with the big can on it?
we did shoot with it. I didn't drive it. But yeah, we did shoot some shots of it like pulling into Santa Monica Pier
Sure.
and like handing out cans to people and stuff like that. It's
Is
some
the
like
can a practical working cooler or it's just a prop?
we're just using actual cans.
No, I mean the can on top of that big
Oh,
car. Does it
yeah, yeah,
have a
yeah.
function or is it just a prop?
I think it's a prop. It's
Yeah.
just like the branding. It's the recognition of the car. You see them everywhere.
I was half kidding, but let me ask
Yeah.
you this. Let me ask you this question, Alana. Um, you said just now, I sent Red Bull. I'm doing, the Roxy, which is it's not athleisure, it's more active brand, right? Roxy, they make surf shorts for women and I'm sure snow clothes, and they're cool. And then you said I was doing that and I sent some personal projects to Red Bull. In my mind, it's like kind of spec work, but not like a fake commercial. You're making this branded film and you have the gumption to go, you know what? I'm just going to send it to Red Bull. And you Google and you find like info@redbull.com and you send it. And then you find Mary is in marketing. You send it to her, or a guy who worked with her and she said, call him. Tell us, how did that happen? Am I
Yeah.
even close?
You're a little close, yeah. So there was this athlete that was a mutual friend. We had mutual friends, and I reached out to him a month after I shot that first directing project. And I was like, meet me in this gym in LA. He lived in San Diego. Drive up and like shoot with me. I want to make this project with you. And to my surprise, he actually showed up, which was awesome. That was like the second directing thing I ever did.
And what was
And
the
then,
project? Tell us what was the
yeah,
idea?
it was just a motivational voiceover, gym kind of vibe, telling his story. I was basically like, I want to make a project about you, and I
Oh,
want to interview you, and I want to just make a little like 1 minute thing. I'm trying to make my directing reel. Are you interested? And he was a Red Bull athlete. So once I had that project done, I did send that around, which I knew some people in the photo department because I was already kind of working with them on the photography side. So I was like, who's the video producer? Can you forward this project to them? And yeah, one of the producers that was there was really supportive of me and was like, called me right away after she saw it and like wanted to work on projects together. So really
this is a
grateful to Josh
great
for doing that.
story. This is
Yeah.
perfect. But now, here's the key. Did you do a product shot? Like the Red Bull athlete holding the thing, or you said, no, I don't need that?
I didn't actually do that, which is interesting because I had done a photography workshop with them a couple years before, and I knew all the company guidelines around how to hold the can and everything because they're very particular about
Oh,
that.
wow.
Yeah, there's
Who
just all
knew?
these kind of best practices. Yeah. So I was actually aware of all that stuff and I knew it's important to have the can, but I didn't think I really like was trying to make them buy it as a spec. I was just kind of being like, look, I can do video now because everyone there only knew I could really do photography. So it was kind of just about like creating awareness. But I didn't have a master plan really in terms of like, let me slap their logo at the end and try and persuade them to do it.
Yeah, it was probably more organic and pure what you made.
Yeah, I think because there was also some option of like, would he be wearing the Red Bull clothes? Because he obviously had that and he was asking me. And I was like, let's just do fully unbranded. So it feels like, a project that we decided to do on our own. And I'm not kind of trying to like appeal to the corporate side of it yet.
I don't know if I would have been so brave about that. I don't know. Looking back, like if I were doing that, would I have shot the can and the brand? Definitely would not have overdone it, right? Because then it kind of reeks of you're trying to make a spot, but did you have the resources that they would have put behind it? In the Red Bull guide, this is just for me personally, do they say how much Red Bull to drink out of the can before you spike it with vodka?
No, but we did have some fun things at the workshop. They had us do like I think it was a mocktail, but we had to do like a contest. They gave us all this stuff and we had to who can make the best drink. So they had
Wow.
a lot of cool team building things.
What's it called? The Red Bull Photography Workshop?
I think it's called Rising Talent. I don't know if it's around anymore. I did it in 2019, I
And
think.
you apply to that? You
No, they just took a bunch of people under 25 in Canada. I think there were, and they do them in like the US and in Europe and stuff. I forget how many people, maybe like 6 or 7 in Canada. We all got flown out to Toronto. We got to work with a bunch of Red Bull athletes. We got to kind of like find out more about the company. And sometimes people ask me how to get involved with them. So I just try and say, like, if you can attend one of those workshops, that really helps.
So then what was the first commercial that you got plucked for?
It was, I guess I would say that one, and some of the other ones that I have on my site. And then I did a commercial for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation last year, which was bigger scale, out in New York. So that was kind of a bigger size crew. And my first time kind of working with like, I guess 60-ish people, which was really
Nice.
fun. Yeah,
Did Bill and Melinda show up?
they didn't. No, she was in the previous campaign that they did, but not on ours.
I would imagine that's well funded. You know, he has thousands of dollars in the bank.
Yeah, it was a good opportunity for me to move towards the type of work that I want to be doing, and beyond. So yeah, it was a great production, and yeah.
You did take the master class, and one of the key pillars is as a director, put yourself in a box, meaning make yourself easy to sell. When you're starting out, I think that is crucial for a commercial director. So, you know, the reps or companies or even brands direct, they know what you do. Now, as an artist, as a creative person, we don't want to be limited. We don't want to be put into a box, a cage of creativity. It's counterintuitive to who we are. How do you feel about that theory? And I'm asking you as now a more experienced director and winner of 2024's Director of the Year award.
Yeah, I think it's about taking that box, but like applying it to different types of things. I just shot my first narrative short last week. I'm trying to take
Congrats.
thank you. Yeah, it was a really fun experience actually. But I just taking that box that I'm in and applying it to different things so I don't feel too stagnant and I can still creatively evolve. So whether that's like narratively or a dance film or a commercial or a doc short, I kind of define myself as having this fusion between movement and storytelling and kind of uplifting storytelling and the types of things that we need today in the world to kind of feel hopeful with everything that's going on. So taking that, definition of myself and sliding it into different other boxes, I get like sub boxes. But
Wow,
yeah, I think you need to be selling yourself, having your lane that you specialize in.
And for the listeners, I don't mean by even category, although that does define you, sports action photography, and that box led to motion in lifestyle brands that are more active. Like Red Bull is different from Roxy. Red Bull doesn't make clothes. I'm sure they do, but they don't market clothes
They
like
actually do.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure they have it. But you know what I mean? It more the box is always morphing. And what you said, you say it again, movement.
Yeah, I think of it as movement and uplifting storytelling in one. So usually
Movement
there's
and uplifting storytelling. I love that.
Yeah, I think it's taken a while to get to the point where you can kind of easily sum it up in a sentence, because I think you need to shoot enough and develop your interests and style enough that you even know what that is. So that's where I've arrived.
Your
But
voice.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
your
And
voice as a filmmaker is this movement combining with interesting storytelling, whether that's a scripted piece like this new narrative short you'll tell us about, or sort of a elevated documentary style piece, which is following an athlete or someone. Um, that's really interesting. And once you get your voice down, the doors ironically open wider, in my opinion.
yeah, I
You would
think it
think
is.
that you're so focused. Sorry, you would think you were
No.
so focused that you only get to do that one thing. But if your voice can permeate the work, then different people come in and go, no, do what you do for this.
Yeah, that's kind of the lane that I want to be in, and realizing that there is a lot to play within that. Like movement can mean a ton of different things, just beyond sport as well. Because especially coming from action sports photography, which is very niche, and then getting into other stuff, it still felt, okay, this is just sports. I want more from that. I think about my second doc, the ocean one, and
Hmm.
there's some scuba diving in it. And my editor was like, see, that's still movement, but it's different. This is not an athlete. This is not that type of story, but
The
it
woman
is
was,
still
she
having
was
that.
in an accident and her father
Yes.
died. No,
Yes.
spoiler alert, right? Was he
Yeah.
thrown from the car? Or were they trying to change drivers while they were driving?
No, I think he was getting tired and they swapped drivers, and then unfortunately crashed, and he didn't make it, unfortunately. And she was struggling with the survivor's guilt
Yeah.
that made it hard to kind of carry on.
How did you find that person and decide to do that story? That seems so difficult.
Yeah, I was actually in an interesting position last summer. I was trying to make two doc shorts, which you've now watched. Our subject for the second one pulled out at the last minute, and it was a story about, I wanted to do something about the power of the water and um, the healing nature of the water and that kind of thing. But our subject had pulled out, and I still wanted to follow through with the project. People were kind of like, oh, you already had a good run. You did one doc. Like, it's turning out well. Maybe you should just stop there. But I was really adamant about figuring this out. So I was just looking for a kind of similar story, because I already had all the crew and people I wanted to work with. And our underwater cinematographer, Jacqueline, is a cancer survivor, and she had always wanted to work with Arena, because Arena works with people like that and kind of helps them heal. So yeah, I reached out to her, and she's been saying at the festival Q&As that she thought I was like a scammer. But we did.
Wait,
She
wait,
just,
whoa, 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 whoa. Someone
yeah.
on the festival circuit is throwing shade at you?
No, no, no. So we go up on stage together for the Q&A, and then people ask this question a lot of, how did you guys meet? So when she gets asked it, she sometimes says, oh, because it's this random email coming in from me, like, hey, I really love your story. Do you want to talk about maybe working together and making a short documentary?
Yeah,
And
send
she
me a
thought it might
check,
be.
a money order, and I'll send you some money back.
Yeah, so yeah, I think she was a little like hesitant of like, what is this? But we met on Zoom around this time last year, actually, and I like convinced her that it would be something, new and exciting for her and bring attention to the work that she does. So yeah, it worked out. But yeah, I had to get through that first hurdle of, it is a bit of a strange ask to
Well, you have to earn
say.
someone's trust.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, how do you fund your personal projects? You can pass on any of these questions. I'm just curious. Like, are you independently wealthy? Is it Red Bull slipping you bags of money?
No, it's the good old reinvesting in your own career. I take a lot of the stuff that I do and I just move it into a personal project in the hopes that it will lead to something like shots, which has always paid off. So that's kind of the story.
And what has come out of the shots?
I think a bunch of different things, a lot of meetings, just a kind of different way that I'm able to go forward and feel excited for the next thing and how to evolve beyond that. Because ideally, I'd love to be at the Shots Awards again for different categories and be able to work on those big projects that are so inspiring that we all aspire to work on. So,
Have you signed with a production company yet?
not yet.
Is that a goal, or do you want to produce it yourself? Why would you? Who do you need? You can do it all.
Yeah,
I'm being serious. Why
no.
the work is impressive and has scope, and just do it yourself.
I would love to sign. I'm waiting for the right opportunity that feels good for me, and just taking my time with that. I've learned not to rush, but yeah, no, I would like to sign, and just kind of be able to focus more on the creative and evolving creatively and continuing to do those projects, but also having support of sales reps and other sides of the job that I don't need to do everything myself, because I do end up taking on a lot. And I'm learning the limits of that. It's good to ask for help.
Tell me about that. You mean you're by default you're producing,
Yes.
right? So and even if you get a line producer to help you, you're executive producing because of your passion projects. And then when you get a paid job like a commercial, you're still running that. And then
Yeah.
are you taking on other responsibilities too? Like you're holding the boom, you got the underwater speaker, you're dropping into the pool.
No, I think crew-wise, I usually staff my personal projects enough that I'm not running around too much with like technical jobs. But yeah, producing-wise, I do kind of end up taking on all of that, EPing, everything, that. And last year it was like doing a big commercial while doing those other projects, and there were not a lot of days off last summer, but I kind of thought of it as like, this is my push to work hard and get to the next level and do what's needed. But yeah, I'm definitely at the point where now it would be nice to have that support for, across the board and not have to do things myself. Because it is a contrast of being on a commercial with 5 producers and then doing a personal project where I'm directing and producing. And
you may like the control. I don't know how. You may not want to relinquish when you get with a company. I think you're going to be too hands-on. Not that that's bad. I don't mean there's such a thing as too hands-on, but you're saying now you wish you had the help, but I don't hear it.
I mean, hopefully there's like a happy medium. I just want a partnership that can help steer me to where I want to go. I think I've gotten very far on my own, farther than I even expected with certain things. But, sometimes it's good to get that help to kind of take you to the next level. Yeah.
How big is a crew on one of these short films? Because it feels your work feels very intimate. But knowing what I know, I take a step back and go, oh, there might be 45 people surrounding this one intimate moment.
Yeah, I can't afford 45 people, but I think maybe it's 12 or 13 potentially. So yeah, I'm wearing a few hats. Sometimes I'm like, at least on my documentaries, I was the one like ordering lunch. And finally for my narrative, I even, actually have PAs do that and create that space of like, don't run around and do everything and actually focus on the creative side, which is where I want to be. That's another part too. Producing is kind of a thing that I have to do, at least for my personal projects, but it's not really where my interests are.
I'm glad to hear you say that. Because, I mean, I was half kidding about you not being able to relinquish. I think all of us like to have control over the vision, because you start out with what you want to do, and it seems like every step of the way there's something that threatens to compromise, not like by design, not on purpose, just that's the nature of life. And the more we can delegate those menial things, lunch is important, but like having a production company myself, I don't care how many people are at lunch. If it's, I care if it's late and someone will tell me like, hey, lunch is going to be late. The caterer had a flat tire. Like, okay, but usually that doesn't even get to me. Like, because I don't care why. I'm focused on what's in front of the camera and how the machine is rolling. So I think that that would be nice for you to have that support. But I don't know. You know what's weird? I was thinking about this over the weekend, actually. I've done pet projects, short films, or even a spec or two here and there over the years as a working commercial director signed at a production company. And every company has said, oh, we support that, of course. And I'll say, hey, I'm going to, after the shoot on Thursday, Friday and Saturday, I'm going to shoot this thing. Oh, we love it. Yeah, let us know how we can help. The only thing that I've asked of like 5 companies over my career, hey, could I just get a certificate of insurance so I can rent the camera?
Mm-hmm.
And they hem and freaking haw over that. Well, I mean, on the books, and that means we have to be let me get back to you. And it just pisses me off because I I've helped people and said, okay, I'll just put my company's name on the project. Now, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a lawyer, but I'll put my company's name on. I'm going to be responsible for the camera. If you drop the camera in the ocean, we're going to work out how we pay the deductible to get the camera house a new company. Or do we agree? Yes. Okay, here's the certificate of insurance. Like in my mind, what I just said is legit, and I've done it for friends, family, more family than friends. But every production company, someone has hemmed and hawed along the way that, oh, yeah. So they don't really help.
This actually reminds me, like I do have another role on set, which is like absolutely panicking because it's under my insurance. So the DP will be like, and I'll be like, does the camera really need to be right there? Like, can we get the same angle, like further away from the cliff? Like, so it is all under my insurance, which is funny. And sometimes is like another reason why it's good to ask for help because my anxiety is like already high, especially because I keep shooting in the water and all these things that are not like they're tempting fate a little bit. I've never had an issue, but I'm always like, be careful about the camera. I'm like, I'm not also going to touch any of the equipment. Everyone who's an expert touches the equipment. No one else goes near it.
I've seen those videos on like Instagram Reels or TikTok where, the camera's on an arm or maybe even an arm car and it whacks a light pole and just shatters, or it drops off of the thing, off the cliff, like you say. I've never had that kind of thing. There was one time when the PA hit, actually, I think 3 times in my lifetime, PAs have been in hit another car with the van. Once when I first started out, and luckily I had made a production company and had insurance, and the PA hit a parked car in front of his apartment. Like he was keeping the van overnight, hit the neighbor's car. It went through insurance. They totaled the car, the whole thing, but I covered it. And that was a few $1,000s of a deductible.
That's really awesome that you help people kind of get going with the insurance side of things, because I think it is, going back to some of the things we've previously talked about, it is so daunting to do some of these personal projects at a certain caliber and level, especially that I do them at now. There are like so many hurdles that don't make it all that easy for people to get into it. But on my first few projects, I had a producer who was kind of helping me navigate like permitting and that kind of thing. I can now do all that myself, even though, as we talked about, I don't really want to, but I do have the insurance and I do have the permitting skills to do that. But yeah, it's very intimidating at the beginning when you realize how much truly goes into each project with all those other side things.
The behind the scenes.
Yeah, if you're just starting out, and then, maybe you reach out to a rental house and you're like, oh God, they want all these, documents. And you're like, oh, this replacement value of our gear is $500,000. Oh my God. Like, sometimes I think I'm like, oh, it's just a personal project and we're using that much gear. Oh my God.
The SAG of it all is daunting to me. Have you done that for your narrative? Did you do that?
Just SAG, my micro budget SAG.
Was that
Yeah.
easy?
The micro budget is actually pretty approachable. I was at South by this year and they had a SAG Indie workshop, which I learned a lot from that. I think it was like 2.5 hours and everyone was taking like notebooks full of notes. But yeah, the micro budget you just apply online. If you have a SAG person on your crew, you have to become a SAG signatory and you fill out a questionnaire. So they have certain restrictions to the micro budget that you have to fall into. Can't be like a commercial or a music video or whatever else. But then, yeah, you just apply and then everyone, it becomes a signatory and then you need to get the paperwork, but it's fairly approachable. Once you go above that, it becomes, you do have to have like a SAG rep and deposits, and which again is not really very accessible for a personal project.
Hey, it's me, Jake, the editor of the show. If you're thinking of joining this year's Filmmaker Retreat in Joshua Tree, well, get off your ass and sign up. It's September 26th through 29th, and J Tree is a gorgeous place to recharge your creative juices. We're down to the last few spots. Save yours at commercialdirectingfilmschool.com. While you're there, check out my dad's buttload of online courses. Okay, back to the enthralling interview.
I've shot as much out of town in the last 2.5, 3 years than I have in town, I think. Bigger jobs in town and, full union crew, talent, everything by the book. But it's quite costly. Like significantly costly that you get, not that I'm agreeing with this, but major brands and agencies will go, yeah, we want to go offshore, which for some listeners, don't be confused. It's not like we're going to shoot on a barge, out at sea or anything. But that's why people go to Mexico City or back in the day, Vancouver and Toronto, eh?
Yeah, I would love to shoot more at home. It's a dream of mine to shoot more in Vancouver, but I've heard that's also getting pretty pricey. So offshore sometimes means like Mexico City or other places that I would love to go as well. Heard good things about Prague and Budapest and stuff.
Yeah, people love shooting in Prague. I know a guy, Brad Hossey. He was on the podcast years ago. He shot something. I don't think it was green screen, but it might have been. It could have been an LED wall. But he shot the background plates full of a room full of people, like a press conference. He shot it over Zoom in Prague. And they organized everything. Like he basically outsourced human background. You're laughing. And then he shot the principals with like he had to know in advance what those people should do. And then he either keyed in or had in front of the wall the actor doing the main bit, the principal. And I thought that's really weird. I can see how that would work. I like shooting in my own backyard because I like seeing my friends on the crew and we all tell stories. And when there's any downtime, I'm at the point where like I shoot with my son a lot. My other son will PA if he's not working on something, and other crew members are bringing their kids are now in the business. And that's just, it's a palpable joy to see second generation people or a nephew is now a grip or something. I love that. You're not old enough to know what I'm really talking about.
No, I love that. I turned 30 in March.
Oh my goodness.
So all my friends are having babies at home. So
what was that like? Did that freak you out? That's a milestone.
No, I'm ready to be in my 30s. I'm ready to have more wisdom, and I learned a lot in my 20s and doing a lot of things on my own independently, charging through to get what I wanted. I'm ready to take all that wisdom and move forward a little more thoughtfully.
Wow, it wouldn't be polite to me to ask any guest their age. So I'm glad you volunteered it because I was quite curious. You've accomplished so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been across a bunch of different things, but I think I learned a lot in skiing without even realizing. I was talking to the skiers that I knew and saying, we're going to go shoot here on this day, and I'm going to bring lighting gear, and I'm going to figure out how to light this jump that we're going to hike into the backcountry and do. And I'd be like interviewing my friends basically to be like, what are your plans for the season? We need to shoot on these. Like I was always trying to make something and kind of get where I wanted to go, regardless of what was happening around me. So I've just kind of taken that in this direction, and yeah, super happy with it. That decision.
Grabbing the bull by the balls, as they say. I think that's what they say. Pop quiz. You're Canadian. Do you know who Nardwuar is?
It sounds familiar, but I don't know exactly.
Nardwuar is a long-running interviewer of popular music artists. And he's weird. He wears like this golf hat and a crazy sweater and checkered pants. And he's been doing it for decades. And anytime now when I meet a Canadian, I love Nardwuar. So he'll be like, J. Cole. And he finds these obscure facts about people. J. Cole, in 5th grade, you cheated on a math test. And it freaks out, the artist.
Do you know where those interviews live? Like, was it like CBC or did he like Much Music? We have all these like relics of.
Sure, it wasn't Much Music. I think he did his own. He's like the Wayne's World of, it's a. I don't know if it was public access. Now it's on the internet. You can follow him, and I couldn't remember his name one time when I was talking to someone, and a couple of more than a handful of listeners wrote me and said, as a proud Canadian, I must tell you that Nardwuar is an institution. So therefore, I am giving him his love and shout out.
So bad I didn't know it.
That's okay. Did you have any questions for me? Do you have any question I didn't ask that you thought I would ask or we would talk about?
I don't think so. I was expecting questions about how to move to the US from Canada because I feel like people always ask that, but
no,
yeah.
There's an election coming up that a lot of people are considering going the other way.
Yeah, but work-wise, I still feel as though the decision to move to the US was a key moment. And I think in Canada, not to rag on Canada in any way, but yeah, it's
difficult.
Well, being around all those people, as you mentioned, being on set and having all those connections, it's been a lot quicker in LA, living in LA, to be able to work with an amazing choreographer or SAG actors, or, it's all just so connected and someone knows someone. And I just did something recently where the lead dancer, their roommate, is doing the voiceover because she's an amazing voiceover artist and a lot of commercials. It's just all like, it's all intertwined, and that whole community thing, as we were talking about.
And do you think that the collective energy becomes the sum is greater than the whole is greater than the sum of the parts because there's a vibe?
Yeah, like meeting people who are in the creative field. Like I remember going to parties originally when I moved here, and people would be like, I'm at this ad agency, I'm at whatever. And I'd be like, wow, everyone is in my industry. So cool. And then I was like, wait, this is why I moved to LA. Everywhere you go, you're meeting people that you can work with. And that's what's really cool. If I meet a composer or anyone that I can get a lunch with them and then trying to get them on some sort of thing I'm doing, it's just a really cool place to snowball and grow your community. I feel like there's nowhere like it. New York as well. There's a whole New York community that I have loved working with.
It's interesting because, obviously, I live in LA and I enjoy the same things that you just said. The community, even though there isn't the bowling club, and we're going to start the bingo night. No, we're doing the bingo night because you don't have to rent other people's shoes. We're starting the bingo, but other than that, there isn't like a spot, but there are events and meetups and the randomness of running into people and just being around other creative people. Like, I don't know, we were supposed to go to dinner with a couple, like our kids all went to school, together, and he writes for Star Trek, and she's an actor. My wife's a director. Across the street, the guy works on the crew. We've never worked together, but there's still something, right? Now, at the same time, Ilanna, I will say that because what we just described doesn't happen if you're living in Huntsville, Alabama. Okay. But at the same time, I'm going to say that in 2024 and even pre-pandemic, you could live in Kansas City or Orlando or maybe even Rochester, New York. I don't know. But the other cities you can live in, look at Austin, look at Nashville. Like, these are places people are moving away from LA to. Charlotte, there's a filmmaking community. And because they're smaller cities, that group may be, and I'm talking to listeners more than I'm talking to you, Ilanna, you could make a community and get the kind of vibe and creative buzz that we're talking about and be maybe even more supportive of each other, because in LA, it's kind of the me game, baby. Right? Like, everybody's got their own, even though we're all in this creative field, it's all about ourselves.
It is interesting to be in a place where, everyone you meet is in your industry and everyone, has questions or whatever. Like, it is, it can be overwhelming if you're not used to being, like, there's all these directors in this room or writers or whatever you're trying to do. And everyone is working on the weekends or what, everyone's like really going for it. So it's an energy that, obviously if you're maybe in another market, you could be able to have a little bit more room to breathe in that sense and work together and make some things make some things in those communities that maybe you're able to get people who are like first time actors or just want to be a part of your project because they want to help you and they're interested in what you're doing. And
but they may not be good.
Well, I mean, I feel like first-time actors, I love the idea of working with first-time actors. I feel like those are some of the performances that in feature films that we really remember because they don't come in with this kind of expectation or
Lost in Translation brought us a young Scarlett Johansson. Some of her best work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking also of like Dominic Sessa. I feel like I love the Holdovers. Dominic Sessa from
the Holdovers.
Yeah.
You're holding his own against Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, and I just saw he's in some commercial.
Sellout.
Hotels.com.
Do you have a partner in life? Shaking her head no. Well, I asked, just like, my wife is a filmmaker, and we just took a trip to Zion National Park, which is gorgeous. It's in Utah. And she had asked me on Tuesday night, this was 4th of July week, not weekend, right? Because it was in the middle of the week. She goes, I thought we were going on a road trip. I always wanted to go to Zion. I go, well, let's go. The next morning, so we get a hotel. We get up the next morning, we drive to Utah, and we e-bike through the park. It was gorgeous. And we're talking filmmaking. We're listening to Just Shoot It podcast with Matt and Oren on the way there. We're talking about a project she wants to do. Talking about, this job I have coming. We're like, we live it because we're partners and we like discussing it. Now we do totally different things, even though we both do commercials and have done movies and docs, but it's such a different point of view. It's interesting and fun for us. So
I could riff on filmmaking forever.
What have you seen lately that you love?
Ooh, I like challengers. I mean, there's that sports angle.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like it's such a fresh take on things. That's something that I would really love to do, of these kind of things that I've done so many times already and trying to find interesting ways to do it. I don't know what else. I have like the kind of my go-tos that I'll watch a few times. I love Showing Up. I just watched that again on a plane.
I haven't seen that.
Kelly Reichardt. It's it's just a very slice of life, subdued, but very funny about, artists and being critical on yourself and comparison and stuff like that.
I like
It's really-
Challengers because at the time I thought, oh, it's trying a little hard, but it stuck with me that
Yeah, same.
I really liked it afterwards.
I really want to watch it again. Yeah, and the score is like amazing. I feel like it's such a unique score. But yeah, it's just such an energy. But yeah, I'm looking forward to my next time at the movies. I think I'm gonna go see Sing Sing again, which is out in a few days. I saw that at San Francisco Film Festival.
You're ahead of the curve.
Well, I had a film there, and then I was able to kind of I had my short there, and I was able to get into a few screenings of stuff I really want to see. I saw Sugar Cane as well, which is more of a heavy documentary, but saw some good stuff.
What? Wait, Sugar King?
Sugar Cane.
Sugar Cane. Oh, I don't know that one.
Yeah, it was at Sundance. It's a documentary about British Columbia, the residential schools. Really sad story, but very profound. And I think Nat Geo acquired it. So
Known for their films. Did you see Perfect Days? Perfect Day? Perfect Day or Perfect Days?
No, I haven't.
Bender's film about the toilet cleaner, public toilet
No, I
cleaner in
haven't.
Tokyo. Check that one out. I saw it a few months ago, and I saw it at a screening at the Directors Guild, and it was quite long, and the pace could be laborious at times. And I thought, did I only sit through this 2.5 hours because it was a special screening? It's in Japanese, and then that one too stuck with me. Like I really liked it. Like it's beautiful. It's poetic. I wouldn't say it's motion. There's a lot of motion with emotion, like that you had described your voice at this point. But anyway, I could talk movies and process. I like talking about how I get off on how the trick is done, and I'm prepping for a shoot in a few weeks, and we got home from our trip, and my figurines had arrived from Amazon, and I bought like $7. I got a dozen little figurines, and I storyboarded the whole thing with my iPhone, just taking stills. And my son's a cinematographer and a director, and I was visiting him, and he goes, "Hey, when I called you, you didn't answer because you were using your phone." I go, "Oh, here, let me show you." And I showed him on my phone the storyboards, and he's like, "That's actually a really good shot." Because and by the way, pro tip, if you ever map something out with figurines or Lego people, turn the camera upside down, like hold your iPhone upside down so you can get the lens lower.
Oh, okay.
Right? Otherwise, you're shooting down at figurines and it won't be as
Lifelike.
cinematic. Yeah, it won't be as lifelike.
Oh, that's a cool trick.
Yeah, so you hold it I hold it vertically upside down and then just crop it to 16:9. There's a lot of waste, but who cares?
Cool.
In fact, part of me wonders, in real life, can I really make the shot as cool as I just did it?
So you already set your expectations too high, then you have to bring them down after the figurine.
Like I said, it's just people trying to compromise. Life is trying to make me compromise. I'm not going to.
Yeah, that's a good thing for directing overall. I feel like even when you're writing a script or in the edit, you're always like watching that first rough cut is always like, okay, here's the actual literal thing of what you imagine, and it's no longer this giant idea that you can sell people on. It's, oh, it'll be all these things. Then you have this rough cut. You're like, okay, this is what we have to work with. Now we have to shape it, but you're kind of coming down to reality.
Have you ever gone out on your after seeing the rough cut and done pickup shots for anything?
I don't think so. Like, I think we just shot this narrative thing and it's surf related. But because of that, our surf guy was not happy with the size of the waves. And I've like been reviewing the footage and it actually made me a little seasick because he is like bobbing in the water. So I'm like, we gotta pick the moments that are when people are watching. They're not gonna, especially in a theater, I imagine. But yeah, we might do some pickups at like a bigger surf day, where we can get more of the intensity of the water. Yeah, but for the most part, like I've never had to really go back and like reshoot anything. Or I think maybe for our doc, one of my docs, I did like an extra day where we got like a couple odds and ends, but it was
Yeah.
only like two things.
I did a movie, this indie film, and to me, it was a badge of honor that we got it in the can and here's the cut. And then Miramax, in the creepy Weinstein days, unbeknownst to me at the time, I mean, he was a dick, and people knew that, but
Big surprise. Yeah.
we didn't know to what extent then. And I'm not even laughing about it, but he then bought the film and said, okay, we're going to have the writer write a bunch of new scenes that intercut with the movie. And I was like, but why? Like, it's the story is the story. That it didn't change the story. It kind of added to it. Like, I saw the point of it. And I don't know that that was his idea or the development people or, but like to me, he came to the edit room, watched the cut when it was ready, walked out, bought the film. It took a year before the writer did the scenes and we cast and shot, and it didn't make it better in the end. It was still the same story, but it did open my eyes as a filmmaker to go, oh, it's done when it's done. And if this entity is going to now pay, $500,000 to shoot for another couple of days, and it was like a big party scene, then why not? So I try to bring that into commercials is tough because the shoot's over, but definitely with documentaries. My wife is a purist. She doesn't want to really even mix of a shot from week 3 following a subject. I go, put the cutaway from week 3 back in week 1. And she's like, no, because that's not real. And I'll know it's not real. I would go out and shoot, 2 months later, someone just said, shoot the guy eating the sandwich, but he didn't have a sandwich. It doesn't matter. It'll work.
I think this is something about my 30s too, where I am realizing like it'll take as long as it takes in terms of like, if I want to go back and get some, if it is like it's my personal project and the goal is film festivals or whatever it needs to be, have the best possible product, even if that means going and reshooting and a bigger day of surf or whatever, actually taking that time. Because I've definitely, in the past when I was starting, it was just all about like, get it done, get on to the next one, and not like taking my time and sitting with things and not being in such a rush all the time.
I think that's wonderful. And like there's a doc that came out this year. I produced it. It's called Hendry. It's available everywhere. iTunes, Apple Movies, whatever they're called, Amazon. You can rent it. It's about a radio personality, and my friend directed it. And his office was down the hall from my office. And it took him 5 years to shoot and edit the thing. And I'd be like, hey man, I think like people we've interviewed are going to die. Like so-and-so's show isn't on anymore. He's not a star anymore, whatever. And he's like, yeah, I need one more interview. I'm going to fly to Washington State and interview this one guy. And I'm like, is that really going to? And my wife, in her infinite wisdom, was like, it doesn't have to be done just because you like to crank it out in a matter of months. Like, it's probably going to be better. And as a producer, people were emailing me like, hey, whatever happened to is that ever coming out? Did you finish? Did you guys bail? I gave you a day. We did an interview. And I was just politely go, we're still in editing. We got some great stuff. It's like a fine wine. It's fermenting. It's going to be ready. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful product. And it did. It came out. I think I was wrong in wanting to see how hard that was. I think I was wrong in wanting to just get it done. And I'm in my 30s.
My favorite projects are all like 8 year. There was a beautiful doc out
Wow.
of Sundance this year. It was an eight, like it was a doc shot over 8 years. And because of that, they're able to, show like 3 years later or whatever else. You're not left hanging by the end of the doc of like, well, whatever happened to that person? They took enough time that they could actually like revisit them in the future.
Well,
It's
that's
called
cool.
Daughters. Yeah.
Daughters.
Yeah, and then other like narrative films. I spoke to a director recently, and he told me his project was also like 8 years in the making. So I think as I would love to do features in the future, and that's kind of what I'm also trying to pursue while I do commercial stuff. But I think that's another thing that I'm gonna have to learn of like the whole process of actually getting to that point with a story is gonna take years of finessing and doing that kind of thing, and I can't just
Definitely.
expect to do it immediately.
Definitely.
Otherwise, it won't turn out.
Yeah, the more time you can put into getting the story right that's tale as old as time. We have to wrap up. And when people go and they see this on Spotify or iTunes and they see your name on this podcast, Respect the Process, and then there's a hot link under your name. Ilanna, where do you want that to take them?
I would say to my website, ilannabarkusky.com. I think that has the most complete look at all my work. I try to keep up with Instagram, but I also there are projects that are not available yet or maybe not the best fit for Instagram. So it's more like updates on how projects are doing. But yeah, my Instagram is ilanna.tv as well. Those are my main two.
I'll put those two up. And did you make your website?
I did.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I
Oh, wow,
love it.
that's a compliment.
No, it's well, I'm a fan of the grid. And like you go there, it's your name and a grid. Like on my computer, it's a maybe it's a 4x4 grid of little GIFs that are playing, and you click on it and the spot plays. So I may have to hire you to teach me how to do that because mine are just thumbnails.
It's
But
just good old Squarespace.
Squarespace picks the GIF for you out of the video?
Oh, no. Okay, I made those GIFs.
Ah.
Yeah.
I know how to do that. I don't know how to link it to the video. But that's a side conversation. I'm going to ask you. I'll take you to coffee or something.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, it'd be great to meet in person. I feel like we've had a lot of Zoom, either we're on like a group Zoom and you're there or this, which is great.
And for the listeners, I will say, Ilanna volunteered to come to the studio to do this in person. But as many people who follow the show know, we got evicted so they can build pickleball courts. So there is no more studio at the point. I mean, there will be.
I think for pickleball is hilarious. Do you play pickleball?
Oh, no, I don't. And if I did, I would quit. Okay. The last question. Thank you so much for talking today and sharing with us. Again, great stuff. Listeners, check out the shorts, which are on the site, and I'll put links to those with the blog and at jordanbrady.com. But this is how we end the show. It's called Respect the Process. What does that mean to you?
Respect the process to me would be trusting the process. And again,
It would have been a better name for the podcast.
We've talked about it, but not rushing and realizing that things happen for a reason, and it's not a race. It's a big thing I'm always trying to tell myself.
Right. You don't get points for being fast.
Yeah, and I think it's also about having that time for the story or your own voice to develop, and taking each project as a learning experience. That's what I was kind of saying, jumping between different genres and types of filmmaking, trying out narrative, like just trying to build my overall knowledge across the board and seeing where that takes me.
That's a great answer. Thank you so much. I look forward to more great things from you. Congratulations on all the successes. And we will chat again. We'll have you back on and you'll catch us up with what you've made.
I'd love that. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, I love that chat. Thank you, Ilanna. Listeners, if you have ideas for the show, I'm always open to that. Jordan at commercialdirectingfilmschool.com. And I want to let you know I also do one-on-one consultations. You send me your boards, your
True
project,
Gentleman
your pitch, or
Industries.
just have some career
We make commercials.
queries. Hit me up. I'm easy to find. Thanks again.
Commercial Directing Film School's mission is to help filmmakers direct commercials professionally. With online courses and in-person boot camps, we demystify the process to get you to the next level, all taught by your accessible mentor, filmmaker Jordan Brady.